Okay, so we're heading over to the Detroit Red Wings and we're talking about the future. Because I think a lot of Red Wings fans can acknowledge there is a ton to be excited for when it comes to this team in the long term. Heck, the team is kind of in a wildcard race right now, but they still have more to look forward to 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. It's just, when it comes to these pieces, sure, you got a lot of young guys, Raymond, Seider, Berggren even, guys that aren't even on the team, you got Edvinsson, you got Kosa, it's a pretty good squad over here. But when it comes to the guys that have been sticking around for a while, let's talk about how the future is not all too guaranteed for some of these players. We're heading over onto mlive.com and reading what Ansar Khan wrote about a few days ago. When was this uploaded? About a week ago. Yeah, it's from December 12th, so it is from a while ago, but I do think it's a relevant conversation to be having. Red Wings mailbag. Will Bertuzzi, Berggren, or Hellberg stick around? The first name is the one that I wanted to focus on here. Let's talk about Tyler Bertuzzi, Todd's nephew, and a guy that has been a pretty intriguing storyline to follow the past little while here in Detroit. So Bertuzzi, 27 years old. We want to talk about future? He's technically in the now. Raymond, Seider, these guys are 20, 21, 22 years old, and you have other players on the team like Dylan Larkin who are sort of starting to enter that 25-ish age range, but Tyler Bertuzzi's a little bit on the older side, 27 years old, plus the fact that you have a contract that he's on that's expiring at the end of this season. He's making $4.75 AAV. He's been making that ever since 2021, 2022. And the thing is, with Bertuzzi, he has not been all too great this season in particular. Now, he hasn't played all too much in this season in particular, which is not his fault, but still, when it comes to Bertuzzi and what he has always been for the Red Wings, at his best, the guy was a really sustainable, aggressive, just really tantalizing forward that could produce offense, and he had 62 points in 68 games, and he was at 30 goals too. A lot of Red Wings fans were saying, hey, this guy, if he continues being this, there's a reason to keep him around long term. He sets a good benchmark, a good attitude for a lot of other younger wings coming in here. It's just, the problem is, a lot of people are kind of acknowledging that once Bertuzzi's contract now ends, there's probably a likelihood that the guy wants to get a little bit more money. And unfortunately this season, the guy only has 4 points in 9 games played. Now that's on pace for 27 points in 61 games. Again, he missed a good chunk of the year. Not his fault again, but in a contract situation, that's not really the best outcome to be having. Now, let's go back over onto that article at mlive.com, Red Wings mailbag, published by Ansar Khan. The question is, will Bertuzzi's injury-plagued season affect contract talks, or how much he'll get on his next deal? The answer is that it's doubtful. There is enough of a sample size to know what Bertuzzi can do when healthy and in good shape, with a 30-goal season and 2 21-goal campaigns over the past 4 years. The bigger question is whether the sides will reach a deal before the March 3rd trade deadline. If they don't, GM Steve Yzerman will surely move Bertuzzi rather than risk losing him as a UFA on July 1st. That probably would be the case even if the Red Wings are in the thick of the playoff chase. By the way, Stevie, I like that a lot. There should be a good market for Bertuzzi despite the time he would have missed due to the surgery, yada yada yada. There's a conversation about Toronto in there, what type of teams might be going out there and looking at Bertuzzi. The Red Wings may have been hesitant to move Bertuzzi in the past when they lacked depth and offensive talent, but the acquisitions of Perron, Kubalik, Kopp, and the emergence of Berggren make this a much deeper team. Now, firstly, I want to give my props to Stevie Y. I mean, I do that all the time, but let's do that again here. For building a team that has gone from kind of so reliant on the top guys and Larkin and I guess you could say Raymond and Seider from last year and Bertuzzi to what it is now. You lose out on Vrana, okay, that's fine. You lose out on Bertuzzi, hey, you're still doing okay. This team is pretty deep, and there are younger guys making significant impacts to the point that you don't need to worry. Even if you don't have Vrana, you don't have Bertuzzi, on a good day, these guys are top 6 caliber forwards for a Red Wings team that was kind of in the need of getting top 6 caliber forwards. And now, after one offseason, okay, maybe a few off seasons worth of drafting and one really big offseason earlier this year where you signed a whole bunch of guys, now this team is still able to remain competitive without some of the main guys you have on your team. And so for Tyler Bertuzzi, I could understand if like a year ago, people were kind of concerned, okay, the Red Wings are going to have to re-sign this guy to a long-term deal because he's 26, 27 years old, he's producing a lot of points, and the Wings cannot afford to let that type of a guy go. But now, I mean, you have that opportunity. You could get a whole bunch of stuff for Bertuzzi as well. I mean, the Red Wings are not that good of a team where I could say they're a legit playoff second-round caliber team yet, but at the same time, I mean, look, they're right there. They're kind of in that hovering state of being around the wild card, and so I kind of admire the idea that Steve Yzerman, even if he could see that prize just so close by, he's not going to snap. He's not going to pull the trigger on making any desperate moves to try to force the playoffs right now. Maybe I'm just traumatized. Maybe that's why I'm giving props to Yzerman, because he's a GM that can see that the team is barely around the playoffs, but he's not going to try to make the playoffs just because they're close by. It's, hey, we have a vision, we have a long-term plan, and unfortunately, if we can't re-sign Bertuzzi, he's not going to be able to fit into our plans, so we got to trade him away for assets that can. Whether that's younger guys, prospects, picks, I feel like for Bertuzzi, when he is at his best, you could probably get him for a significant haul. And I'm feeling a first-round pick and at least another prospect. I don't necessarily know if he's in that territory where he could demand what Eichel got, Dubois got, or any of the other guys, Pietrangelo, a first, a prospect, and a roster replacement. But, I mean, he's a point-per-game guy, Tyler Bertuzzi is, when he's at his best, so maybe so. I don't know, you can let me know in the comments all your thoughts about what Bertuzzi could fetch on the trade market in a realistic rental-type scenario, because I think any team that's acquiring Bertuzzi, of course, you're not going to see some playoff bubble team acquiring Bertuzzi. You're probably going to see some team that's already in the playoffs, that already has a pretty guaranteed chance at making a significant impact and making maybe even the second round. And they're going to acquire Bertuzzi because they want to absolutely make the best out of their time in the dance. Not necessarily because they want to re-sign him. I mean, there might be another team or two that wants to re-sign this guy, but I think it's more likely he'll go to free agency if there's no contract on the dotted line by the time March 3rd rolls around. Plus the fact that Bertuzzi himself knows his worth. He knows how valuable of a player he is. It's just because of the season he's had this year, when even when he's back, he does not look the best. There's a conversation to be had as to whether or not the Red Wings would be even willing to go into his contract demands and consider those. I mean, if Bertuzzi wants 8x8, would Yzerman give him that? With Bertuzzi and the way he's played so far and the very limited sample he has he shown off that he's an $8 million player? I mean, you could debate that he was kind of in that territory last year, but I don't know, things have kind of changed. So of course it's going to depend on how Bertuzzi performs here on out, if he's actually capable of playing to a standard that sees him being able to make a high amount of money appropriately. But I don't know, man, I've been seeing a lot of Red Wings fans on my timeline saying, yeah, he's not really playing like a guy who's worth a significant amount of money so far. And I get it, he missed training camp, he missed a boatload of time during this season with injury, and he looked okay at the start of the year before he got injured, but I don't know. It's a little bit tough projecting the future here, but all we know so far, based off of this Ansar Khan article, is that a trade is possible, not closed off. Steve Yzerman has an opportunity here to bolster his team in the future by adding a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi long-term, or whatever assets you could get in a Bertuzzi trade instead. It's apparent that either option will be explored quite thoroughly. So talk in the comments your thoughts about this idea of a Tyler Bertuzzi trade if the Red Wings are not able to come to a contract agreement by March 3rd. I hope you enjoyed this footage. Juraj, and bye.